Naram Sin's battle with the gods and the curse of Agad. As with most ancient stories, the curse of Agad is quite older than its recorded history from the Ur III period that existed between 2047 and 1750 BCE. In this exciting tale, one of the top gods, Enlil, had a battle with Naram Sin, a prominent king in Acadia. He is the son of Sargon the Great, who started the entire empire. The son was very prestigious and expanded the borders of the kingdom through fighting and conquest. As with most prominent historical figures who displayed a high degree of might and prowess, he had many legendary stories told about him. Many people across Mesopotamia enjoyed hearing of his exciting life. The Nineveh Library, collected in the 7th century BCE by the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal, contained written copies of this story. What is the curse of Agad? This tome existed as a fine representation of what is called Naru literature. This genre is characterized by the relationships between deities and humans. Although they have some basis in history, most of them are fictional stories or folklore. Some other examples of these types of stories associated with Naram Sin include the Kutha legend and the Great Revolt. The Curse of Agad became one of the more popular pieces of literature associated with this prominent theme. It raised an interesting philosophical question because it depicted Naram Sin seeking to discover why the gods allowed him to exist in such misery after Akkad city was destroyed. Again, all historical analysis reveals that Naram Sin acted at every point as if these gods were a reality. It seemed it was that the king himself did not properly worship the gods and show piety. Therefore, Enlil stopped looking on Akkad with favor and blocked all other deities from putting any blessings upon it. Naram Sin asked for reasons, fell into a depression, and went back to the gods for answers to no avail. At last he raised an army and destroyed the temple of Enlil in nearby Nippur city. In the Curse of Agad, as expected, this attack angers the gods even more. The result was the destruction of Akkad, famine, and a total takeover by a group of people favored by the gods called Gitans. This is not mythology. This is a real historical account, and it was recorded exactly like this, motive of the gods and all. Scholars get around this by demoting the notion of gods, saying they were people who became gods in an ideological way. Despite the general acceptance of this morality tale as truth, historians cannot find any real evidence that the king destroyed the temple, or Akkad fell as a result of Naram Sin's actions. Whoever wrote the Curse of Agad probably used this ruler and city because they were well known, and it would make a much more effective tale. Naru literature seems to have supplanted historical truth in some cases. However, historians don't believe in gods, and have painted themselves into a corner when historical accounts speak of them in real accounts. The goal of the Curse of Agad was to teach people not to upset the gods. It demonstrated how to have a proper relationship with them. The lack of answers from the gods or a true explanation about what Naram Sin ever did to make them angry in the first place allows readers or people hearing the story to imagine their own selves and situations within it. Human suffering frequently has no obvious answer. The god Enlil simply decides not to protect the city anymore. He feels no pressure from any outside force, and he could have chosen to let Akkad continue to prosper. Researchers have suggested that the story was told to represent doubt of the legitimacy of Naram Sin's rule. The structure of this piece of literature follows many Naru genre stories, as well as many other types of legends and fictional accounts of historical activities. It all starts on an ordinary day in Akkad, telling about how wonderful the city is and how rich it is from trade and commerce. It tells of how the goddess Inanna blessed the city and felt honored to be part of it all. Then conflict arises when Enlil shows his disapproval with the city in general. While a specific reason is never given, suppositions include a lack of respect for Naram Sin as the king. This is linked in part to the god's support of Sargon, who he wanted to rule over Mesopotamia at large. The history records show no problems occurring when Naram Sin took over from Sargon, however. Every conflict in a story must be answered by decisive action. The king, however, responds to the downfall of his city by asking the gods for an answer, remaining penitent, and praying for 7 full years. Unfortunately, Enlil does not answer. In the Curse of a God, Naram Sin then gets quite angry with Enlil and the other gods and takes action to get some kind of answer out of them. The destruction of the temple represents an attack on the god himself, and not just breaking a holy spot of worship and prayer. The temple there was considered essentially the house of the god, with a bedchamber, treasure chest, and more. A person who destroys or damages a god's physical home or steals his property will surely end up punished in quite severe ways. The destruction of Ekur obviously makes Enlil even angrier, and the other deities join the cause to ruin Naram Sin and Akkad completely. The final punishment for a mysterious initial purpose and the final sacrilege and blasphemy of destroying Enlil's home and property is to allow a group of people called the Gitans to invade Akkad, who destroyed much of it, and to cause a famine and blight on the land.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unearthly discoveries only at Paranormal Plug.